Are the food that we eat really safe? Recently, there were views expressed that certain food items that we eat are unsuitable for consumption. Some parliamentarians even went on to suggest that there are toxins in these food items or specific food items that Sri Lanka imports. Now, this has prompted a response from civil organizations and organizations affiliated with consumer rights protection, and they have raised questions from the relevant countries that Sri Lanka imports these food items from. All the while, local farmers are now alleging that their produce is being bought for dirt cheap. Good afternoon. This is Lunchtime News on TV1. We've got details of these stories and much more lined up for you this afternoon. But first, a look at your top stories.
Are there toxic materials in rice imported from India? Civil organizations request the Indian High Commission to investigate. Farmers in Polonnaruwa raise questions as to why the government does not have money to purchase their produce. Members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party who accepted ministerial portfolios removed from their party positions. Parliament heats up over Triposha for mothers and children.
ත්‍රිපෝෂවල විෂකාරකයේ අඩංගුයි කියලා. ඒ නිසා නැවත මේවා එකතු කරනවයි කියලා. එතකොට දැන් මේවා පාවිච්චි කරපු දරුවන්ට මව්වරුන්ට වෙච්ච හානියට වග කියන්නේ කවුද?
ඔය ප්‍රශ්නය සම්බන්ධව ඊයේ හවසම මම කතා කරා. අමූලික බොරුවක් කියලා වගකීමක් අතව මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී මම කියනවා මේක.
Mahis Tikshana promoted.
Starting off with your top story this afternoon, a group of civil organizations and trade unions handed over a letter to the Indian High Commission today requesting for a report on the quality of the rice that was imported to Sri Lanka from India. The Medical and Civil Rights Physicians Trade Union Alliance, the Consumer Protection Organization, were among the civil rights groups and trade unions who handed over the letter to the Indian High Commission today.
If there were any toxins in the rice that was imported, we have given that rice to the people through our restaurants. Because of this, we will create a situation where it will be impossible for Minister Mahinda Amaravira to travel to India. We will also be visiting the Chinese embassy and the Myanmar embassy and the Pakistan embassy. We will give them letters and ask all of them if the rice that we imported from their countries include toxins or not, and if the statement made by this minister is true. A proper report on the issue surrounding the rice that was imported into the country must be given to the people. Billions of rupees was not spent to import rice just so that we can feed it to animals.
Samagi Jana Balavagiya parliamentarian Rohini Kumari Vijayratna raised questions in Parliament today over the safety of Triposha distributed to children and mothers in Sri Lanka. Quoting a local newspaper, parliamentarian Rohini Kumari Vijayratna noted that a considerable number of children in the Hambantota district are malnourished and that the Triposha that was distributed contains aflatoxin. She said that reports have suggested that the distributed packets of Triposha are being recalled due to these concerns and was alarmed over the lack of accountability on the matter. Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwella admitted that there was an issue surrounding the distribution of Triposha and noted that aflatoxin, which is imported to Sri Lanka by ships, is maintained at 30%, 10% more than the world standard to ensure safety. He said that instructions were given to the Health Secretary to institute legal action against those responsible for spreading malicious reports citing a random incident. However, SJB parliamentarian Rohini Vijayratna highlighted that PHI chief Upul Rohana had noted that the Triposha packets are being recalled as there was an issue in the content. In response, the health minister noted that Upul Rohana has been instructed to submit scientific grounds to prove his claims, and when he responds, the response will be tabled in Parliament. The Indian government said yesterday that it had begun talks with Sri Lanka on restructuring its debt and promised to support the crisis' neighbor mainly through long-term investments after providing nearly $4 billion of financial aid. Sri Lanka, a tourism-dependent South Asian country of 22 million, is struggling with its worst economic crisis in more than 7 decades since independence, which has led to shortages of essential goods and the ouster of a president in recent times. The opposition once again today made a request in Parliament from the government and the Speaker to present the IMF agreement that was reached with the government to Parliament. Raising the question in Parliament, Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriyalla requested the Speaker to present the IMF agreement, or at least details of the IMF agreement that the Sri Lankan government has entered to with the IMF. Responding to this, Speaker Mahindayapa Abewardhana said that he will discuss the matter with the President in his capacity of the Finance Minister and request him to present the details to Parliament. However, responding to this, the Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriyalla said that the Speaker has been derelicting from his duties, as he previously assured that these matters will be presented in Parliament. Speaking further in Parliament, Samagi Jana Balavegiya parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva said that the government must present these details to Parliament, as the opposition intends on holding a debate on the matter. He went on to note that the opposition cannot conduct a debate if details of these matters are not presented in Parliament. Now, responding to the statement made by Dr. Harsha De Silva, Minister of Transport Bandula Gunawardena said that there is no agreement that the government of Sri Lanka has entered with the IMF, and that it is only a framework that has been agreed upon. The Minister of Transport went on to note that the Sri Lankan government has entered into programs with the IMF on 16 times before this, and on none of those occasions was the report or the agreement presented to Parliament. Minister of Transport Bandula Gunawardena went on to note that the agreement that the Sri Lankan government entered to with the IMF only include certain policies that Sri Lanka must follow to retain the country's credibility among international players. Also speaking in Parliament, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe, in his capacity as Acting Minister of Finance, said that the final agreement reached with the IMF will be presented to Parliament as and when it is reached. He went on to note that before the final agreement with the IMF is reached, there is no possibility of presenting a detailed report on the outcome. However, responding to this, Samagi Jana Balavegiya parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva said that the opposition is not against reforms and highlighted the fact that any reforms made in the country should be reforms that can be borne by the people. He went on to note that support from both aisles of Parliament is required for these reforms to be pursued in the country. He also went on to state that during times of crisis, it is usual for governments to be overturned, and that it is imperative that the government gets the support of the opposition as well in implementing these reforms. Responding to this, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe said that as the head of the Committee on Finance, if the parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva has any recommendations, they are willing to accept those proposals as well. Now, while the quality of rice imported to Sri Lanka has been questioned by various factions, local farmers allege that they are forced to sell their produce at prices that they described as dirt cheap.
Farmers point out that the government's lackluster program to purchase the harvest of local rice farmers has allowed black market traders to purchase the harvest of local farmers at low prices. The fields in Kaudulla are being harvested. The prices of paddy have reduced significantly. Black market traders are purchasing our harvest for dirt cheap. The government storage facilities have not even been opened yet. Farmers in the Parakrama Samudra settlement in the Polonnaru district pointed out that they have not been able to reap a good harvest this season because of the multitude of issues that they experienced. These farmers question as to how they can survive after selling the little harvest that they have for extremely low prices. Back in the day, we used to have about 10 to 15 paddy plants for a bundle. Now we only have 5. Forget about the organic fertilizer and at least now give us a good price for the little harvest that we have left. There is no point in selling this paddy at 100 or 110 rupees. We spent about 150 rupees to produce this paddy alone. We would like to ask the government to either purchase this paddy or remove this control price on rice. We are in debt to many banks and we have to pay them back. Farmers in Kantale are also harvesting their fields. Farmers point out that lack of proper fertilizer and other agrochemicals had devastated their fields and their harvest has been severely affected. Farmers also said that the law must be enforced against those responsible for taking the decisions that devastated their livelihoods. The government must be held responsible for this. It was the former minister and the current minister of agriculture who are responsible for destroying the farming community of the country. They brought down a ship carrying garbage under the pretext of bringing a ship of organic fertilizer. They paid $6.9 million for that ship as well. If the government had that money today, they could have purchased our harvest.
The leadership of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has decided to remove all Sri Lanka Freedom Party MPs who accepted positions in the government. Members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party who accepted positions in the government have been removed from all party positions and also from the membership in the Central Working Committee.
The decision was taken by the former president and chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Maithripala Sirisena, and the decision has been communicated to 14 SLFP MPs who are represented in Parliament. MPs Mahinda Amaravira, Nimal Siripala de Silva, Lasantha Alagewanna, Shantha Bandara, Dr. Suren Raghavan, Chamara Sampath Dasanayaka, Jagat Pushpakumara and Ranjit Siambala Pitiya accepted ministerial positions in the Wickramasinghe government. Accordingly, they will be stripped off all party positions and the Central Working Committee membership. MPs Duminda Disanayaka, Dayasiri Jayasekara, Dushmantha Mitrapala, Shan Vijayalal de Silva continue to remain with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
A man was murdered after being attacked by a sharp weapon in Gampaha. The victim had attempted to nab a thief who had stolen a handbag from a passerby. He was then attacked by the thief with a sharp knife.
Crime Watch.
Two people traveling on a motorbike had stolen a handbag of a woman traveling along the road and attempted to flee. However, they fell off the motorcycle and two individuals had attempted to nab the thieves. The thieves had then attacked the two individuals with knives during their attempt to flee. The two victims were admitted to the Gampaha hospital. One of the victims, a 30-year-old resident of Gampaha, succumbed to his injuries. The suspects had abandoned the motorcycle and 3 handbags that they robbed. Police investigations are underway to identify the suspects.
Crime Watch.
Social media activist Avishka Viraj Konara, who was involved in the Argale protest, was summoned to the CID to record a statement today. Speaking after the statement was recorded, social media activist Avishka Viraj Konara said that he was summoned to the CID over a complaint made over the arson attack on the residence of the current president. He pointed out that the Aragale movement was launched as response to the issues that were faced by the people, and that he believes that the Aragale movement will continue to move forward. Moving on, in more local news, Chairman of the Lanka Private Bus Owners Association, Gamuna Vijayaratna, convened a media briefing yesterday and spoke about the issues faced by the industry. Speaking at the media briefing, the chairman of the Lanka Private Bus Owners Association, Gamuna Vijayaratna, said that apart from the Sri Lanka Transport Board buses, private buses who are purchasing fuel from outside needs to pay additional amounts to acquire the fuel that is required for them to operate. He further went on to note that there is no proper mechanism to distribute fuel for the buses that are in operation. Moving on, in more local news, a woman was injured and hospitalized after a vehicle collided with a train in Delkanda, Nugegoda. The accident had occurred at about 6:30 this morning. Area residents point out that the driver of the vehicle had attempted to recklessly cross the railway track. A motorbike was also damaged in the accident. Two people were traveling in the vehicle at the time of the accident, and according to our correspondent, the driver of the vehicle had not sustained any injuries. The injured passenger of the vehicle was hospitalized. The program to create the longest painting in the country with the participation of school students from all over the island is on day 21. The program is being conducted today in the Kaluthara district. The more than 1,000-foot-long painting will be created on the occasion of Universal Children's Day on the 1st of October under the theme Rise Together Students. I beg your pardon. Students from Mahinda College, Gaul joined the program to add colour to the longest painting. The program is organised by Sirasa TV in association with the Ministry of Education. Tomorrow's leg of the program will take place in the Ratnapura district. The US Department of Defense, under the Building Partner Capacity Program, is to provide the Sri Lanka Air Force with aircraft loading and refueling equipment next year.
The 36th Contingency Response Squadron assigned to Anderson Air Force Base, Guam, organized a mobile training team event between Sri Lanka Air Force and the 120th Airlift Wing, Montana Air National Guard recently. Airmen from the 120th Logistics Readiness Squadron and 120th Maintenance Squadron showed 15 members of the Sri Lanka Air Force how to use aircraft loading and refueling equipment they will receive next year from the Department of Defense under the Building Partner Capacity Program. The program builds partnerships with foreign nations by providing military and equipment training to enhance their capabilities. This isn't the first time airmen from the 120th Airlift Wing have worked alongside the Sri Lankan Air Force counterparts. Over the last year, the 120th Airlift Wing and Sri Lanka Air Force have worked together several times as part of the State Partnership Program.
People's mindsets are strong. Despite poverty, they are strong enough to stand up and be counted. For them, Gammatha has been a source of strength for over a decade. Gammatha, for the people, by the people.
Officials in 4 Russian-controlled regions in eastern and southern Ukraine have said they will hold referendums on becoming part of Russia, which could set the stage for Moscow to escalate its 7-month-old war. The officials said the votes would start on the 23rd of September and continue until the 27th of September.
Ukraine dismissed the plan as a stunt by Russia to try to reclaim the initiative after crushing losses on the battlefield. Ukraine's foreign minister tweeted, "Sham referendums will not change anything." He also said, quote, "Russia has been and remains an aggressor illegally occupying parts of Ukrainian land. Ukraine has every right to liberate its territories and will keep liberating them, whatever Russia has to say," end quote. According to officials and news agencies, votes will take place in the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk republics of the Donbas region, which Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized as independent shortly before sending troops into Ukraine in February. A vote will also be held in the southern Kherson region that Moscow's troops captured in the early days of Russia's offensive in Ukraine and in partly Russian-controlled Zaporizhia region. Russia does not fully control any of the four regions, with only about 60% of the Donetsk region in Russian hands.
Uganda declared an Ebola outbreak after one person died of the disease.
Uganda declared an outbreak of Ebola after a case of the relatively rare Sudan strain was confirmed in the country. This was confirmed by the World Health Organization on Tuesday. The World Health Organization's Africa office said in a statement the case was confirmed after testing a sample from a 24-year-old man in the country's Mubende district. Ugandan health authorities investigated 6 suspicious deaths in the district this month. The country's health ministry said the 24-year-old patient died after displaying symptoms. Uganda last reported an outbreak of Ebola Sudan in 2012. At least 17 people were killed from 24 cases identified in that outbreak, which contributed to containing the virus in the East African country at the time.
In sports news this afternoon, Private Mahesh Tikshana, who was part of Sri Lanka's cricket team that won the 2022 Asia Cup in Dubai, was elevated to the rank of Sergeant by Lieutenant General Vikum Liyanage, Commander of the Army.
The Army groomed sportsmen and sportswomen who shone distinctively in the field of international sports were invited to the Commander's office at the Army headquarters to receive appreciative compliments and cash incentives. The international achievers included Sergeant M.M. Tekshana, a member of the Sri Lanka cricket team who won the Asia Cup Championship 2022, Corporal T.T. Algama, Corporal K.B.Y. De Silva and Corporal M.A.I.J. Pereira, all of them in the Sri Lankan national netball team who won the Asian Netball Championship 2022, and bodybuilder Corporal R.A.D.P. Rajapaksa, who won the bronze medal in the Asian Bodybuilding Championship 2022. At the same time, the Army Chief, in recognition of their achievements, instructed respective authorities to promote the above achievers in rank in an attempt to stimulate them further. Accordingly, Private M.M. Tikshana was elevated to the rank of Sergeant, Private T.T. Algama to the rank of Corporal, Private K.B.Y. De Silva to the rank of Corporal, and Private M.A.I.J. Pereira to the rank of Corporal during the same occasion.
That's all the news we've got for you this afternoon. Join us again tonight on Primetime News on TV1. Take care.
ඇත්ත කෙටියෙන් දත්ත වැඩියෙන් සයිබර් අවකාශයේ කලබන වුවත් සලකුණ News First YouTube channel අදම subscribe කරන්න. News First ජනතාව සමග